Right, as you know, in the quantum world, right, nothing is just one. It is this, that, and whatever you want it to be. It's particle, wave, and both. There's so many different like dimensions, so many different possibilities, so many different outcomes. A situation can occur in multiple ways, and when something is something, it is only that because you see it as that, when really it's what you wanted it to be, what could have happened, yet hasn't happened yet. And it really annoys me when people think life is black and white. And people say, life is a grey, but it's not just black, white, or grey out of three. It's black, white, and the grey has thousands of options, and it's not just like a black and white answer. And how do you explain to someone who's very on a spiritual path that there's possible outcomes when somebody wants a specific answer? And you're like, I can't give you the answer. It's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. It's an interesting way to start this conversation. Well, for me, I really believe that we are all creating our own realities. So, with our intention and our will and our desire for something to happen, things can line up for us in any way, shape, or form. But my practice right now is asking for what I want to receive, believing it fully that I'm completely capable of calling it into my reality, and then ultimately letting go of the outcome, which is really difficult for us because, I can say, oh, I want to win a Grammy as an artist this year or something. But perhaps my path is that needs to wait, or that my music career needs to take a different shape or something like that. So trusting the universe and then allowing the chips to kind of fall where they may is, I think, a valuable practice for anybody to pick up on. And understanding that there's always this X factor, which is the quantum realm, that's working in tandem with us to, create this reality that we're living in. So sure, you could call that a gray space. Not everything is black and white at all. But yeah, I do believe that we're creating our realities, but we're also working with a lot of different elements to keep us on the right path.
Yeah, it's like a thought is a vibration and a frequency, and it'll go out there and attract it back. But our gut feeling, aka the rest of our body, is also a more powerful vibration. So the gut feeling, what our body's made up of by default before we thought about it, is going to win over the thought. So just because we want to be something doesn't mean that that is going to come to us, because it's what our default state of vibration is. And ironically, in the quantum physics, when you observe a particle, you collapse it. So when you focus on what you want, you can't get it until you don't focus on it. It's like when you ask a ghost to make a sound, when you're asking for him to make a sound, he doesn't do anything. And then when you stop focusing on him, then he knocks. So what that says is that when you don't focus on it, what you want happens. So if you're not in the vibration by default of the thing that you want before you observe it, it's not going to come. So how do you get to that vibration without observing it, knowing that when you observe it, you fuck it all up? Well, you just have to have that massive belief that it's going to happen and be ready for that thing to happen. So you're already at that vibration for being able to do it. So you're ready to go on tour, you're ready to record, you've got enough money in the bank, you're ready to travel and get up at 6 a.m. You're already ready. So that vibration is automatically what it needs to be. Whereas if you want something and you observe it and it doesn't come, that's because your vibration isn't at that vibration that it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
And ironically, as you said, when you let it go, that's when it comes. But you can't just think about it and let it go if you're not already in that vibration. So it's a
Yeah.
really fucked up thing. But when you get it, anything can happen, right?
It's a really magical thing. And Oliver, sorry if I'm looking off because your screen is frozen, but I can hear you perfectly. So let's just keep rolling with it. So I'll go back to what you said about gut feeling over wanting something to happen. And what I resonate with there is that the gut feeling is an innate belief. It's registering something as true. Your intuition is registering it as fact and true. So, really, if we're talking about manifesting here and aligning with what we desire, it's really about getting into a space where you believe that it's meant for you. You already know that you have it, because if we can let go of this human idea, human concept of linear time, because living on Earth, everything is linear to us in time. But in the quantum world, time doesn't exist. It's something that we've just kind of created for our own, resourcefulness and, organizing everything. So if we can let go of that and already recognize that if we truly believe that something is meant for us, it already is. And technically, it could have already happened in some universe or reality if we can let go of this idea of time. So, if we can get into that headspace, then we can understand that it already is ours. And we can come into a place of calm knowing instead of frantic desperation. So, when I'm really calling something in, I work on observing the belief systems that are holding me back. So, for example, if I'm trying to call in a certain amount of money or a certain job or a certain client, I'll name what I want, I'll write it down, and then I'll observe what limiting belief systems are holding me back from that. So, for example, if I want to mentor somebody, for example, I just started mentoring people for the first time. And to get to that point, I really had to observe what was holding me back and not allowing me to get there fully. So, for example, I said, well, I don't have my master's degree, so people are maybe not going to trust me, or, I haven't been through enough personally for somebody to actually take me seriously, or I'm too young to do this. So I identified those belief systems. And what I like to do is get out my journal and I'll write down on one side of a T chart the limiting belief systems. And then on, parallel to each of those beliefs, I'll write down how I would prefer to feel and what I would prefer to believe. And then one of my favorite hacks is to actually record myself and my voice notes on my phone going through about 20 affirmations that line up with my preferred belief system, so that subconsciously I start to take on those characteristics and those behaviors. So, yeah, so an affirmation could be, I am innately abundant. I am a wonderful mentor. People come to me for guidance. I am naturally a powerful speaker. I love people and I love helping them, identify with their most authentic selves and get them to the next level. So it could be like 20 of those affirmations. And then I will listen to that every night before I go to sleep to reprogram my subconscious, to literally rewire myself so that I can get into a place of believing that I am deserving of that, and that it is. And it's not so desperate anymore once I start to actually take on that identity of who I am becoming. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Let me know if
Yeah.
you can see me again, because I don't know why this is happening.
I
Um,
can't see you, but I'll let you know when I can.
yeah.
But I can hear you just
Yeah.
fine.
So in terms of the quantum world, every frequency is increasing in mass, attracting to the next highest frequency, and then when it becomes that vibration, it raises its right frequency until it attracts to the next frequency, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So as I said, when you focus on something, it's something that you want in the future because it doesn't exist yet. So that's a future frequency. That's a higher frequency compared to what you are right now. Because if you had what you wanted right now, you'd be at that frequency. So the fact of, as you said, thinking, well, I don't have a degree, are they going to take me seriously? Have I not got an experience? It's like the obstacles in the way of getting it. Whereas if you say, I'm a great mentor, whatever, it feels like you've already got your clients and they're saying to you, you're a great mentor. So you're already feeling that vibration in the future that you would be feeling as if it was in reality now. So
Mm-hmm.
that shifting up in vibration before you've got there. If you see it in terms of magnets attracting, repelling, going up, attracting, repelling, going up, you can see yourself as that magnet. And how do you get yourself to a vibration if with if you can't take any action because there's nothing to take action with because it doesn't exist. With the aim, you have to go into the future and realize what vibration am I going to be when I'm there? How do I feel? And increase your vibration to that, and then you magnetically are in your future. So literally, the future. I don't believe life's written out. God's created everything, whatever path, stars are aligned. It's just that when you realize you are God, you are the star, and you know how to do it, it technically is already aligned because let's just say that you are very low in energy and you couldn't really sing. Well, being a singer is just out the question. But if, for example, you've got family members who are singers, you've already got the range of vocal ability, you know how to hold yourself. So you're more in alignment to, say, the record label and how they need people with, energy levels, singing abilities, and be able to communicate. So your vibration's already higher than somebody who doesn't have a clue. So your energy is and it's all attracted to the same thing. You're attracted to more singers, and all those singers are attracted to actors, and actors are attracted to labels. It's just like a whole ball of everything that's the same attracting the same.
Mm-hmm.
um and so yeah, life technically is already written, when you think that your vibration is going to attract to the same vibrations. And yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Like attracts like. So exactly. Like it would be easier if we're taking the singing example for somebody to excel in the music world if their family is already musical and they already come from that background because it's already a belief system that they have. They believe innately that, oh, I'm a musical person. I am, meant to do this. For somebody that doesn't grow up in that kind of family, maybe they grow up in a family that's, more concerned about sports or finances or nothing really artistic. It's their work then, if they really want to be in music, to start to embody that lifestyle and to start to look for, I don't know if you know Lacey Phillips. She's one of my favorite teachers, and she calls these people expanders. So one of the great ways to start to embody who you're becoming and who you desire to be is to find people that are already doing what you want to be doing and are doing it well and that come from similar backgrounds so that you can prove to yourself, you can see to believe that it's actually possible. And it's just a hack to wire your belief systems to say, oh, it's absolutely possible. There's literally nothing that's out of our realm. It's just, do we actually believe that we can do it? So it's exactly like you were saying, it's like attracts like. So if we can get to the place where we're actually feeling what our future self is experiencing and actually feeling that joy and that feeling of fulfillment and excitement, that's the key. So the one way to start with that as well is just by rooting in a place of gratitude. So saying thank you for what hasn't even showed up yet. So you could say, thank you for all of my wonderful clients. If we're talking about mentorship, for an example, thank you for all of these wonderful people that have sought me out for help. I am so appreciative for their presence and I love helping them step into the next version of themselves. Being grateful for what is coming to you, so that you can raise that frequency. I also like to put on music that makes me feel good and visualize while I listen to a song because music naturally gets us really excited. So if we can dance a little bit, like listen to a really good song and get our vibration really high, and then visualize and then really, really focus and really visualize what that life is going to look like. And imagine what we'll be wearing, what meetings we'll be going to, who we'll be talking to every day, what our schedule is going to look like. You can create a vision board around this. And just listening to a song that puts you in that high vibrational place, like you can kind of create this magic bubble that you can really work with. So anything to get your vibe high, because you can't really manifest and visualize this wonderful life if you're feeling shitty. So I think the first key is to get into a place where you're naturally feeling good. So maybe take a run, listen to some music, like get your vibe high already, and then start to work on that visualization. And it'll come. It'll come. It's all about
It's
feeling it.
it's true. I
Yeah.
always tell people you can't just suddenly want the good life and jump into the future when you literally your past is your present and it's going to pull you back. Like if you've got the milkman coming around every week and you start wanting to go on holiday and live a life, he's going to come around on the Thursday like normal, knock on your door and say, "Where are you?" And he's going to still charge you even if you're not there. So you've got to address the past and stop it becoming your present before you create your perfect life. So for example, I would say to people, get your car cleaned, clean the inside and out. Go through your whole bedroom, go through your clothes, go through your drawers, bin everything, order everything, because that is you, who you were. And you don't want to be that person because that's your mindset. These objects relate to things, how you felt at that time. So if you're not that person anymore, bin it. It's like holding onto an ex-boyfriend's box under the bed. Bin that
Mhm.
shit. You know, you're going to get a new one if you're holding onto the old stuff. So you've got to kind of remove the things in the past that you don't want to be your present. And now you've got like half your life empty where you can either do nothing or fill it up with new stuff. So putting on great songs and dancing makes you feel good. That naturally increases your energy. You feel better and you get inspired when you feel good. So now you get in the mood to write songs where if you're thinking, fuck's sake, I'm depressed, no one's going to sign me up, I want to be a singer, but no one's signing me, you're going to feel shitty and you're not going to be able to put out the right thoughts. So doing things that make you feel good, going for a walk, cooking, putting on music, dancing in the shower, silly things that most people don't really do, but dancing in the shower makes you like as if you're on a nightclub, makes you feel so good, especially when you have that realization. If only people could see me now dancing to like Avicii in the shower, 6 a.m. in the morning, whilst all your colleagues are just like depressed and wanting a coffee and unhappy with their shitty lives, and you're dancing like you're in a nightclub, you feel really good. And as you feel good every day, your energy increases, And as you know, you attract more. When you attract more, you're getting what you want more, and so you feel good. It is this vicious cycle, but you can't just jump into the future. You have to understand that you've got to go back in time. You can't change the past, correct? But if the past is going to become your future, you have to address things that are going to come back around. Like, for example, an ex-boyfriend calling you up. Make it clear we're over. Milkman comes. I don't want the milk anymore, because that is going to keep occurring. And that's what people struggle. And they say law of attraction is a nonsense because they can't create their life. And I'm like, you can't just go to a seminar, buy the package, read the book, vision, if you're still doing the same old shit that you're doing. It's not how it works. You've got to
Mhm.
sort your cluttered bedroom out, remove all the stuff, because that is holding you back. Because your vibration is still the same. You go for a seminar, you feel good, everyone's in the pump, and then you go back to your vibration. You've got to remove it, and then you might have a chance. So that's why people get disheartened about vision, because they're not
Yeah.
doing it right.
Right. Right. And I think we're diving into shadow work here. So it's all about taking responsibility for our own well-being and getting out of this victim mentality that, oh, poor me, all these terrible things have happened to me, and switching that mindset to, you know what, things are actually happening for me. Everything that's happening for me, as difficult as it might seem in the moment, is actually helping me to expand and experience, these challenges, to help me shift into a place of joy, compassion, understand who I really am underneath all of this. And it's funny that you talk about like binning all of these old clothes or all these old identities. Last night I was doing this meditation because I was struggling with this old, kind of old family dynamic relationship that has always been kind of holding me back. And last night I was envisioning literally throwing all these negative feelings in the trash can, like all of these things that have been making me feel so stuck and so low vibrational. Just throw it in the trash can, zip it up, and throw it out. And then I imagined this kind of beam of light coming through my body and charging me with all of these new feelings, all of these new downloads. And I woke up this morning with a new perspective because I made a choice to stop feeling like that. And I took responsibility and I stopped blaming that person for my pain. And I said, you know what? It's me. I'm the one who's choosing this identity. It's not their fault anymore. If I'm going to be in this low vibrational state, that's my decision. And I can choose to get out of it at the same time, set some healthy boundaries for myself if I need to, and, take on that new identity. So it's really about the power of choice. And I think if we could all, find a simple practice every day, the most important thing is that we find joy every day, that we, are happy every day, whatever that means for us, however we can get to that place of joy. I feel like that's the most important thing we can do for ourselves right now. And then if you're calling something in, just know what you want, get very specific down to the detail of what exactly you want, and then get happy. Like that's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, it's like when you are really, really happy, you suddenly want to go buy some nice food and nice flowers for the garden because it matches your vibration of happiness and nature, right? Imagine the
Mhm.
earth vibrates at 528, flowers are 528. When you're happy, you're resonating near to 528, and you want things that resonate the same. So you go out and buy a happy shit. And when you're, say, unhappy after a relationship breakdown, you go listen to Adele, you eat bars of chocolate, you just you get a symbol that says, no one loves me, and you look at that in your room. So I know the power of physical objects and that how they have to go if you have changed your mindset. So I've been in the same pattern for a while now. When I was 21, I was enlightened and I literally removed everything in my room and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And from experience, I know if I'm going to do something, I want to go down the whole way. And I didn't want to go down paths if I was going to have to come back. So I realized only recently that I need to teach people and enlighten people. So essentially, I did nothing for 4 years because I knew that I'm only going to start something if I could finish it when I didn't before. So it's almost like if I'm only going to start singing in pubs and clubs if I'm going to be signed. Because if I'm not going to be signed, there's no point in doing this. I might as well spend the time, say, being an actor if I've got more chance being an actor. And so only recently I've gone on Amazon and I've bought some plants. I've bought a Himalayan salt lamp. I have bought some new bed sheets because these bed sheets are the ones I bought 7 years ago, for example, when I was enlightened. And although I don't need to raise my energy, I became aware that these physical things naturally put your mindset back into the time. Even though I've not done anything, like nothing's changed, I've not gone from bad to good. It's
Mhm.
just, it's a sign of growth. It's not that you need to grow, it is a sign of growth. So I've literally changed and bought loads of stuff in my room to change my environment. I put up a massive, like I call it a tapestry on the wall, just to get my mindset in different frequencies. I bought some candles, I bought some those incense sticks, just to get my mind into a different vibration. So it's very important that your environment matches how you feel, because when you buy things, it's based on how you are feeling them. And so unconsciously, even if you don't even realize, seeing that is putting your mind how you felt back then. And so if you're not that person back then, you need to get out of it. So as you said, clothes, for example, if you were, say, I don't know, 5 months ago, you bought a dress and you did a pub singing gig, whatever, and you felt a bit shitty, or you wanted something to happen and it didn't. Well, that top has connection to that energy at that time, and you're not that energy anymore. You've increased in vibration. So just seeing that piece of clothing in your wardrobe every time you open the door is naturally, unconsciously putting your vibration back to that. And that's not good. Hence why you need to constantly clean your car, constantly tidy your room. If your things do not match how you are now, bin it. My whiteboard, I go through thought process where I write stuff down and I leave it on there and I look at it. And if it still resonates, I leave it. And if it doesn't, for example, I wipe it off. And then I write new stuff. Essentially, you just have to keep aligning yourself how you were today, because yesterday you could be someone different.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think that's very helpful. That's a really good practice. And it teaches us to let go of attachment to things, physical things. But, I also think that there are kind of ceremonious ways to cleanse energy. So you could possibly sage or bring out your Palo Santo, or you could say a prayer or an affirmation to reset your room. I love moving stuff around my room too, and just like do a deep clean, move stuff, shift everything on the walls, like definitely swap out clothing or donate clothing and try to minimalize. But yeah, rewriting the story with your space is definitely very powerful, because I mean, we become everything that we're seeing, we're watching, who we're talking to, what we're listening to. So everything carries a vibration, and it definitely puts us in a very, very specific spot for sure. So yeah, I mean, I appreciate that lack of attachment to things for sure.
It's like, for example, my granddad, when his wife died, my grandma, the house was exactly the same, like 8, 10 years later. So his mindset hasn't really grown. It's the same vibration. Literally, her handbag was left where she last put it. So obviously he's grieving, but that's not good for an individual spiritual growth, right?
Yeah.
Because you're not the universe keeps growing and increasing in energy. Plants grow, then they die, and then they grow, and then they die. And you get more of it. Human beings are the same. And if it were just a monk in the middle of a forest, right? Our energy would increase and the energy around us in nature would also increase. But we put ourselves in a little tiny house. We buy sofas, we buy clothes, we buy books, we buy handbags, and it becomes belongings. And those belongings become our environment, and it makes us feel comfortable. It's like if a snake suddenly sees something's changed, it might realize, fuck, there's a predator there. So it's used to that difference. And so when we buy things, we get a plant and it makes up our surroundings. And then it's just like, that's it. I've got my sofa, I've got my plant, I've got my bike, I've got my dog. That is it. I've got my husband. That is it. But in the real
Mhm.
world, our energy is growing, universe is spinning, all this stuff is staying the same. So how can you move forward spiritually if physically everywhere you look it's the damn same? Same friends, same school, same Chinese takeaway, same stupid programs on TV, same conversation
Mhm.
with the husband, same food on a Monday. That is not good. And
Yeah.
that's a lot of reason why people have so much disease, because their body's not shredding cells like a snake does, because it's just staying in the same cells. Like, think about it. Our house is full of dust. What is dust? It's just dead cells that have just gone in the atmosphere, and we're breathing it in. It's not doing good for us, and we're supposed to be outside. And it's literally the reasons why so many people are trapped, because everywhere they look, it's just the same. Think about it, like a town or a city. You're made up of all that vibration. If you stay there
Mhm.
forever, if you're growing, these people aren't. There's a massive force of energy that you can't even see that's pulling you down. Every time you go to the pub, their energy is still there. It's probably the same when they're 18, for example, and they're 40 years old. That's not
Mhm.
good for you. Like, the vibration is affecting your cells, even if you can't see it, even if they're not even speaking to you. And that's why it's so important to change your surroundings all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I like what you're saying too about disease coming into the body as well, because I think a lot about how our cells are so intelligent and they carry this innate wisdom, the mitochondria of the cells. Like we've got these little universes inside of us that are communicating with us all the time. So, I mean, I encourage everybody to just like talk to their bodies, talk to your cells, like ask your body to function exactly how you want it to function and understand how intelligent it really is. And I think when we understand that our body is so innately wise and that it is communicating with us and responding to our thoughts like verbatim, I think we'll start to treat our bodies differently and we'll be so aware that everything that we're doing is affecting our physical well being, spiritual and mental well being, which is all connected. But yeah, I mean, you have such a good point about like not shaking up your environment. And of course, if you're going into the same restaurants, the same stores, everything, I mean, we're in the quarantine still in the States over here. And I've been in my family home for the last 2 months. And it's so funny that all of these old memories of like being a teenager are coming up, all of these, vibrations are coming back in, these memories. And it's been a really interesting challenge to kind of shake all of that off and stay in my place of who I am now and not go backwards, because I definitely am picking up on the energy here. And I think also something that we can do is just like literally, if we feel like that, if we're feeling like we're getting pulled down, is we can just like literally shake our body. And that's why I feel like people call it shamanic shaking, like literally shaking your body so that your energy just like shakes off. And that's why dance, I think, is so powerful too, because it like allows us to literally shift our vibration and throw that shit off of our bodies and let it go. And it can be very emotional. Dance can be really powerful. Same with yoga. Anything that we can do for physical movement to shake that up can be really helpful if we're feeling stuck.
So I was enlightened, and I said I binned all my everything. I wiped my Mac. I had a terabyte worth of everything, songs I'd written, ideas, fucking everything. Because my whole bloody brain in my whole life, yeah, my whole childhood, wiped my Mac, wiped my phone. I binned everything in my room, binned social media, deleted everyone, removed all my friends, water, didn't use shower products. I just ate healthy. I was sleeping, waking up with an alarm, meditating, nature. I literally imagined what it was like for Jesus, and I did him. So I was bathing with water, candle, no soap, because I realized I wanted all this materialistic stuff to make me happy. Where have we come from? I had to go back to really understand what we'd had. And then if I was happy with that, then I could choose to live a materialistic lifestyle. And I looked at my parents and I realized I was in that pattern because of them. So I literally binned everything in their house, everything in their house. I binned all the drawers, I binned everything in the loft. My parents were left with just photos and the sofa, the TV, etc. Because I realised that this thing about the possessions. My mum wanted happiness, didn't know how to find it. Was it a husband? Was it herself? Was it sex? Was it money? It was always a bit of everything, and it wasn't clear. And really, it all comes down to you want to be happy by yourself without needing anything. And so it's very important for me to remove all this stuff so she could see clearly what she wanted. Because when you look at photos of me when I was 6 years old, you go back to the mother used to be, and you grieve that person because the kids are getting older, and you and the husband are becoming distant, and you hold on to these plants and sofas, and your kid drew something on the fridge and it's with a magnet. That's not good. You use these things to make you feel good. You replay them in your head. It makes you
Mhm.
feel good, but that's actually not doing you any good at all. And I used to always replay stuff in the past because it made me feel good. And I realized it wasn't really doing my soul any good for the rest of my life. So I
Mhm.
binned everything. And then what I did was is I replaced everything with new stuff. So I literally went around the house. I spent 10 grand on her. I worked part time for a year to replace all the shit that I binned. And I bought new lamps, new pillowcases, new bed sheets, new carpet. Because, for example, if that plant on your wall or that photo your mum bought, say 10 years ago and you lived here and you've moved out for 5 years, you come back home, you are not that child anymore. And yet you look at that photo, you go into the mindset of who you were when your mum bought it. Literally, your brain goes back to that, say, 15-year-old person, and that's not you. It might be your mum's vibration because when you get older, you don't often change. So everything's the same. You're still a little daughter. But reality is that that's got old energy and that's probably not who you are now. Hence why going back to parents' house can actually be damaging if they haven't grown with you, because you kind of get triggered to like past trauma and past arguments, and that was when your dad did this and your mum did that, and things trigger, and it puts you in a mindset, and it puts your energy in a place which you shouldn't really be. Um, Hence why I had to remove my parents' shit, because they would never have evolved to the level that they have of awareness. Like my mum and my dad, they pretty much know all the stuff that I know, because I forced my knowledge down their throat for 4 years until they started to repeat it back to me. So she goes, "Why am I doing this? Why not?" Don't have to justify why. Why not? Last night I said, "Why did you not put chicken in the vegetable curry? Why not?" I said, "Fantastic answer." I said, "You don't have to justify yourself to anyone." And she's starting to repeat the shit back to me. So yeah, is it annoying that she doesn't give me a straight answer? Yes, but I'd rather her be on my level and kind of, serves you right for teaching me this, because I want to empower people. So if I see someone as a threat to me, that's my opportunity to grow in wisdom, not trying to force them down to because they're regaining the power. That's not how it works. You empower people and empower yourself.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
I think you were definitely in the right headspace to kind of renounce your physical attachments, and I think that's wonderful. I will say I think there's a flip side to that that can be a little escapist for people that aren't in that same headspace and who aren't aware of their power. I'm just remembering this time right after college where I was like, I don't like who I am right now. I need something different. So I ran off to Thailand for a couple months. And I thought that doing that and leaving all my possessions behind and being in this new environment would change who I was. And I did change, but it was just running away into the same problems, because you can't really escape yourself even just by changing your outside world until you've done that internal work, which it really sounds like you did, and then it led you to that. But I think if anybody's listening and they're like, "Oh, if I just like, move into a new apartment or something, my whole life's going to change." It really won't until we do that inner work and we start to really observe why we're accumulating what we're accumulating and what stories we're telling about our lives in general. And I think that's something definitely to look at too. I often think of who we are as human beings at our very essence. And I was writing about this yesterday how, we're all born as these just really pure little creatures. And we become who we are by taking on stories of people around us. And we get programmed like that through the media, especially through what we're listening to, and through our parents and through our friends that we grow up with. We become their stories. And I think so much of life is figuring out what our authentic story and our authentic code is by peeling back all of those layers and by stripping away everybody else's stories so that we're left with our essence. And that is kind of a lifelong process to find out who we are without all of these other stories, making us who we are. So yeah, it's like all about rewriting that and building a new code essentially for who we are.
And this is why, diet plays such an important part. People underestimate loads of things: meditation, sleep, diet. It just becomes part of life to set an alarm and get 6 hours and go to work, and everyone else is tired, so it's just life. And
Mm-hmm.
eating microwave meals, having a takeaway, it just becomes part of life. But all these factors, one by one, sleep, diet, water, nature, exercise, they all play a massive part to enlightening your body.
Mm-hmm.
It's not, as you said, quantum physics. It's not just this or that. It's this, that, and everything. It all combines. Um, and it's a very complicated world that everything is in now. As I said, man has created everything, and it's all merged together where we think it exists, but it really is just someone else's conscious mind, and we see it and we want it and we try and merge it to ours, but it doesn't really exist. Like I was thinking about relationships the other day, how we see the happy things in relationships are holding hands down the street, and what we don't see is the arguments in the morning. Like we only see what we want to see, and really when you think about relationships, no one is truly in a perfect, harmonious, loving relationship all the time. So it's like, well, that's just life. Is it though? How do you feel by yourself versus how do you feel with somebody? If it comes down to feeling, then feeling always wins. Don't be with somebody if you always feel good by yourself versus 50% of the time feeling good with somebody. And it comes down to like, well, do I want somebody to do things with? Am I willing to risk all the other bullshit that comes with it? It comes down to choice and feeling. And when push comes to shove, it always does come down to feeling and the individual self. And relationships are pretty much man-made, because in energy terms you attract and then you're already one. Whereas we're two physical people, we're not exactly the same. We can't truly become one. So there's going to be like compromises, and with compromise often comes sacrifice, and you're sacrificing something that you want for them. And it's like, well, if you're not the same person where you agree the same, it's only going to get worse, which it does, and then marriages break down. So again, it's how do you live in a man-made world where you know it really doesn't exist, but if you don't live in it, you are literally a monk in a forest, like with just nature, meditating all the time, so on a high, and then you die. It's like it comes down to just this versatile of choice based on how you feel now. That's what I've realized. Loving relationship now, just sex next week, being alone for myself, being with family. It's a constant change of it constantly changes. That's what I've really learned to understand. I can't have a relationship because I'm evolving, and if they're not evolving, then we're just going to split. So it's like it's
Hmm.
just complicated. It's just this constant evolution of the universe spinning. As you said, our cells are different universes. That's a really nice way to put it. The universe only expands and gets bigger, and it's here nor there, whatever. Same as ourselves, but we see ourselves as just not, and it's different, but it's the same thing. Like if you look at a walnut, how it's got like the lines going through it, it looks like a lung. And if you put two half walnuts together, it's the same as our brain. And if you look at a broccoli, you see a tree. If you go on Google Maps and you look at, say, the desert with the streams and how they all branch out, it's just like lungs and capillaries. It's fucking amazing how everything is the same.
It is. It really is. And in herbology, I'm interviewing this girl who's an herbalist next week, and she really teaches that like the foods that you can forage literally heal what your ailment might be. So if you're having a heart issue, you can look for plants that are edible that are shaped like a heart, and it will heal your heart. So it's like everything is truly connected like that. And I love how you're talking about food as well, because I think, everything absolutely does affect us. And food is such an interesting thing that I think everybody has their own relationship with, and it's constantly evolving. But I think when we start to love ourselves more and want to literally live, we start to choose foods that encourage that state of being. I'm just looking back and remembering how I was eating when I was so like depressed or I was going through all of these issues, and I would feed myself just toxic foods, and I'd be like, oh well, I can just get rid of it later and my body will like sweat it out and I'll just like eat nothing tomorrow or something. But what I was really telling my body when I was eating like that was, I don't want to be alive, so I'm going to eat these foods that deteriorate my cells. And now when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I'm so grateful for this beautiful day. I'm so excited to be alive. And I choose foods that are deeply nutritious, and I eat to sustain myself and not to pacify myself and push my emotions down or mask my feelings. And I'm not perfect all the time, but I definitely notice when I'm in a different mood, I'll eat differently. So yeah, and it all feeds off of each other. So the better I eat, the more alive I feel and the happier I feel. And the worse I eat, the more I identify with that lower vibrational state. So yeah, I just gravitated toward what you were saying about food. And the same goes for relationships. I mean, how you do one thing is how you do everything. So everything feeds into everything. So relationships, if you're not feeling good, it's all law of attraction. You're going to pull in somebody that's going to match that vibrational state of like not feeling good. But on the flip side, if you're feeling great, you're going to call in somebody that matches that vibrational level that you have. And I think relationships are also beautiful forms of tests, and they actually bring out what you might not have acknowledged yet or that you might need to expand from too.
Yeah, so what I love is that when you, for example, you plan to go left in the town centre, but you, for whatever reason, go right, and then you meet a friend or you meet a record label producer, whatever, yeah. And so when you think about how I thought to go left, but I was guided right, and if I thought about going right, doesn't mean that I would have actually ended up going right. It just says that we are governed by energy, whether we think we're in control by thought. Like energy is the overrides everything. It's like you've got a board of directors and the president. The president can override at any point, but the board of directors make the decision. So we can choose to do things, but energy will always override. So obviously, when people say let go, it's easier said than done. You can't just let go because then you've got to meditate, control your thoughts, and it's a complicated thing. But when from experience, when you know that energy always wins and you always end up where you're supposed to be, as long as you keep moving, you
Hmm.
realize I tried to plan all this and I tried to think about this, and it's just a waste of energy, waste of time because it didn't happen anyway, and this thing happened regardless. And it makes you think, well, was this always going to happen? And technically, if you understand how the universe works, yes. So
Hmm.
don't plan anything, just kind of become aware and prepared of what is likely to happen, hence
Hmm.
letting go, and you will gravitate. It's like a plant always goes towards the sun. You could put
Hmm.
a fucking block in the way and look around the block. And
Yep.
that's how I see like walking left rather than going right. There's a big
Yeah.
building in the way, like a massive like building like Harrods or whatever, and you've got to walk around the high street. That's a long way around, but you still are guided round there. That's the plant finding the sunlight around the block. And
Mhm.
and so that makes you think, what's the point of thinking in life anyway? If we're just gonna get the same result, we might as well just meditate all the time. And the answer is yes, that is correct. But then it's like, well, we're physical beings. We've learned to communicate. We've
Yeah.
got nice food. We can share spices from India and share tips from China. It's not just English fish and chips anymore. So it's like, well, we have a choice. Um, um, but yeah, it's ironic how the outcome is always the same, and yet we
It's
try and
funny.
control
Yeah,
it, and it's just there's no point because it's the same outcome. Just a waste of time.
exactly. Yeah, it's very funny because like we naturally just want to be in control. And especially in the Western world, we're just like, you know, I want this to happen. Like if I don't take affirmative action on this and work on this and this and this, nothing's going to happen for me. And it's really something I'm still working through as well. But, I think the one thing that we can do is just keep ourselves in this place of high vibration and joy and curiosity. And our curiosity will naturally lead us to develop certain skills and meet certain people that will eventually lead us to our ultimate path and place us exactly where we're supposed to be. So, yeah, it's such an interesting thing to think about because we think we're in control and then something comes out of nowhere, like some kind of miracle or some kind of coincidence, which I don't even think coincidences happen. I think everything is meant to be in place. But it reminds me of the saying that luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So I look at the preparation part as just being rooted in a place of joy and doing what makes us happy every day. And so that when that opportunity comes, we're ready and we're ready to meet it and we're already in a good spot. And then we don't really have to control anything. We just let it happen, but we've already like gotten to that point naturally.
um, yeah. I mean, I have
Funny
literally.
thing.
Huh?
It's a funny thing to think about because we like to think that we're always in control, and then the X factor comes in, and we're like, interesting. This is
But
where it's supposed
but
to be.
we're not. It's almost like a singer doesn't want a record deal, and someone approaches her and signs her up, and she goes with the flow, or she says no, and somebody really wants a record deal, can't get the record deal. So what does that say? It basically says that the outcome is the same. You're either out of position, out of vibration, have a look, whatever, for a record label, which is a business at the end of the day. And you don't need to do anything just by being you, just by singing, just by talking, just by interviewing, just by looks. You either have it or you don't. It's almost like trying to make yourself better looking, trying to make yourself be able to sing better. You can't really change who you are. And it's almost like you either have it or you don't. And I know, for example, that when you hold on to something that you really want and you deep down know you can't have, you only trap yourself. It's like when I used to eat really bad. Yes, there is lectins in food which is addictive, which is making me eat more, say, Doritos. But you also, as you said, you're punishing yourself. You don't feel worthy enough to live because you're giving yourself toxic foods killing you rather than enhancing your cells. If you really wanted to live, you would be smoking and sniffing coke and fucking up your nose, which you need for the rest of your life. So it's on a deeper level where you don't feel yourself worthy enough to have good food, where you don't
Mhm.
really care. I will say people who smoke don't really care whether they live or die, because you know damn well there's a chance you might get cancer, and you still are taking that risk, which means you don't really enjoy life. You're not really happy. Um,
Yep.
and so it's always a deeper level. Like, obviously it's addictive, but I believe addiction is simply just your ability to try and fight willpower versus I don't have a reason to stop this. And it comes down to self-worth, whether I
Yeah.
feel my body is worthy of eating good. It's like cutting yourself. You don't like who you are, you're punishing yourself. I used to punch myself growing up because I could
Mhm.
never get to what I wanted, and I used to punch myself because I was hating me for being me, but it was already me. So it's like, you're such a prick. Why the fuck are you doing that? Because I hit myself because I didn't like who I was. And it's like, you
Mhm.
have to change that person. I fucking love myself. I love myself. I don't look in the mirror that much because it's not about that. It's about just loving who I am.
Yeah.
And, people say it's arrogant, ego, whatever. And
No.
it's just, you have to love yourself. End of story. Because if you don't, you're not going to feel good because it's your life. Serve others, but it's one before two.
Exactly. I do want to touch on this thing though, because I think it's so interesting. I think we really can have anything that we desire if it's truly a vibrational match. Because I think about people, I mean, some of our top pop stars are not necessarily the most talented people. They just knew that that's where they wanted to be, and things lined up for them because they showed up and they were ready to go. I mean, I think of Katy Perry, no offense to Katy Perry at all. She's a great person, but she's maybe not the best singer, but she's got this personality that's magnetic. I mean, she would be able to go into a room of writers and just show up, show off, and just like wow people. And she was a vibrational match to the spotlight in that way. So I think if somebody out there is like I really want to be a singer. I really want to get signed, but I don't feel talented enough. Like if they keep practicing and showing up for that craft every day and they are in a place of joy and they continue to show up for that work and they take pride in it and they love themselves through all of it, I think things will naturally line up. And they might not line up in the way that we think they're going to, and that's about attachment to outcomes. But I do think that if somebody is dedicated to a craft authentically, things are going to line up. I mean, if I'm like, okay, I want to be in the Olympics, I want to be an Olympic runner, and that's just what I want. Like, that's one thing because I'm not, I don't like running. I don't like doing that. Like, no. If I wanted to say that and I literally was saying that to people, it would be rooted in ego and it would be rooted in something that was not authentic because I don't want to be in the Olympics. I'm not really a runner, but like, it's all about where our intention is. And if we are really experiencing a calling. And I think we all know what that feels like. I think we feel this deep, like, gut pull that's like, okay, this is what I want to do. Like you and I starting podcasts, we were like, we've got to do something to help advance this conversation around awareness and helping people step back into their worth and their innate power. So we took action and we committed to it. And now here we are having this great conversation and it's going to keep building on itself. And I think for us, that was like this innate knowing and this push to do something about that. And I think we'll get taken to places that we'll be really happy with. Yeah. So yeah, I don't want to discourage people necessarily. If they're feeling this deep calling, people are really capable of doing just about anything, but it's all about getting into that vibrational match. Yeah.
Yeah, so for example, if somebody isn't in the Olympics, isn't a sporty person right now, and they trained to run, and they happen to be quicker than everyone there, and they qualify for the Olympics by having a certain time, they'd be on TV, they'd have an agent, they'd be around the world, they'd have a massive Instagram following, and all he did was turn up and run. Whereas people, they want to be in the Olympics so bad, and they train 4 or 5 times a week, and they just haven't got it. What it's saying is that you can want something and not get it, and things are there if you don't want it. It's
Mm-hmm.
all circumstantial. For example, you could be it's an example, as you said, Katy Perry, not very good singer, but it's about the personality which sells the records. It's a business. What people don't see is they look at all these pop stars and they see when they are. What they don't see is what they had to do before. They weren't very well known before, like for the last 7 years. An agent comes to them, they sign them up, they say, look, we'll get 100 grand. will get you all around the country, pubs and clubs and whatever. No one knows who you are, and you don't see that. And in our heads, we see fame, we see money, we see attention, we see singing, we see speaking on stage, we see TV. They're all connected, but they're all separate. And so we want all of it, and we think we have to do this to get that. But it's not the same. It's like
Hmm.
you could be a singer, you could run in the Olympics, knowing, for example, you're a female and you can run quicker than people. You can go to the Olympics next year, you've got your platform, you've got your name on TV, and you happen to sing and you sell records. You've made it. So it's not like, okay, I need to be good looking, I need to sing, I need to have an agent, I need to do this to get this. No, it's circumstantial. You don't see all the people who don't make it. There's fucking millions of them, right?
Yeah.
So really, it's just if it's there, it's already there. If you're
Yeah.
trying to chase it, you're not going to get it because it happens in the ways that you don't. And that's what comes back down to letting
Hmm.
go. For
Right.
example, I really want to be a public speaker teaching enlightening the world. I know, for example, I'm really good at impressions. I could go on Britain's Got Talent, win the show, and not do impressions, but I've got a name and a platform. So you have to like find a way up. So I do agree that people can kind of create their life if they are already in a certain vibration. I don't believe that if you are low vibration, you can't sing, that you've really got much hope. But as you said, if you've got musical parents, musical family, and friends, you've already got a head start. And through your wisdom of knowing how to get there, rather than looking back and seeing the circumstances that occurred of how it got you there, you can work the system. Like I can see, okay, how did Katy Perry get there? This happened, this happened. Well, I can then do that, put myself there, knowing that this might happen, and it happens the same way.
Hmm.
It's just you are consciously aware of the journey versus it happening unconsciously and being like, oh my God, how this is so lucky. If he wasn't there, then this wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
And I'm thinking about like the runner analogy as well. It's like, okay, so they train for the Olympics for years and they don't make the cut. Well, it goes back to the attachment to outcomes. So perhaps this person trained and trained and trained, and that training maybe introduced them to the love of their life, or that training helped them get through some emotional trauma, or that training helped them strengthen other areas of their life that would never have been strengthened, or they would not have been able to overcome issues unless they were training like that. So it doesn't really matter if they made it to the Olympics or not. They got to the next level in life that was meant for them. And I think that's just all about trusting that we are exactly where we're supposed to be at the exact time. Like there's nothing that we're doing wrong, or there's nothing, that's holding us back. Like we are exactly where we're supposed to be with what we're doing, and trusting that. And then it goes into this conversation about like, okay, why are we even here? Did we come in with a mission or a plan, or are we just here like willy-nilly, like what's going on? And that's a whole conversation too that I think everybody's just curious about. And it's, what everybody's asking, like, what are we doing here? And that's why we're having these conversations.
So the answer to that is that everything we see is man-made and man made it. So you see the outcome when it's made. You don't see how it was made. And there was a million possibilities that could have happened to make it, but one happened out of the millions. And so there is no direct way. You have to create your own way. And that brings me on to, like, for example, addiction. You can't just stop smoking, stop watching porn, stop eating food. You have to go through the motion and eat and eat and eat, smoke, 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 watch porn, watch porn. You have to chase your singing dream. You have to get to the end of the road to realize I'm not good enough to be a singer. I shouldn't be smoking. I need to stop wanking to porn. You need to go through the motions to realize, look, I don't want to do it. And that was a thought 3 weeks ago. I'm still doing it and I'm aware that I shouldn't do it. And I'm not getting the feeling I wanted to. So it's almost like what we think about, we would just think about forever. Okay. 3 weeks it takes for thought to change. So you have all your thoughts of, I'm going to say, eat Pringles every night. And then 3 weeks later, your new thought comes in now of, I don't want to eat Pringles because I'm eating too many Pringles. So you've got to eat Pringles every night for 3 weeks. And on the third week, that thought comes in, I can't eat Pringles. Okay. And so naturally you won't feel the need to stop eating Pringles. It would just be a default mechanism as if you're already prepared for when a record label signs you up. You're ready to go. Your mindset is just not thinking of Pringles. If you think about something, you have to go with it. If you've got thoughts about, doing being gay or lesbian, you need to experiment. If you want to be a singer, you've got to fight that dream until you realize I'm not going to get it. You can't be like, these X Factor people, 10 years later, some person goes on, when she was 18, she gave up and she always wondered if she was good enough. And 10 years' time, she goes on. You have to get it out your system. You have to go down those paths. And when you go down the path, your energy is increasing in vibration. And as you said, you might focus on singing now, and that might be the path you're going down. But as you raise in vibration and get yourself ready to be a singer, you might realize it's not for me or I'm not good enough, and then you become an actor. So you've constantly increased your energy and it's risen up. And at the end of the day, when you are enlightened, whether it's acting, singing, public speaking, money, it all comes with a status, with a name, with money, with an opportunity. It's all the same thing. Acting, singing, Richard Branson, top of a company, Steve Jobs. You have a name, you've got a platform, you have an inspirational story. It's the same journey, just in a different field. It's like food. You've got fruit, veg, Chinese, Indian food. It's just if you're on that journey and your energy is already in harmony with it, you will get there. And as long as you keep moving forward, your energy will increase. And sometimes, like me, I started all these podcasts because I wanted to have my own talk show. I wanted to take over the Tonight Show, right? James Corden's Late Late Show. I wanted to be a talk show host. I still would love to be, because I haven't ruled it out. But as I'm going through this, I'm realizing that my deeper calling is to enlighten and speak on stage to people. So it's almost like I have a choice to go for Chinese or I can have an Indian. I will get this platform, I will enlighten people, and then the opportunity's there. Do you want to have your own talk show? Why the fuck not? But
Mhm.
my purpose of doing this 89 podcasts later was talk show. Now it's like, maybe my deeper calling is to enlighten people, because I see the reaction I get from people hearing me. So now it's like, wow, the feeling is more making me feel good. I feel more in harmony to helping people rather than being a twat on stage. I can still be a twat on stage, but my feeling wins at the end of the day. And maybe
Right.
this is the deeper calling. But it doesn't mean I'm going to rule it out forever. Just because you give up singing now and you become an actor, you've got your platform. You can then sing. But it
Yeah.
transitions. It always chops and changes. That's why you can never focus on just one thing, because you need to be flexible, like a fart in the wind.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And I think what we're getting to here as well is like not basing our self worth on the label that starts to attach itself to us, because we are all going to shift and we're all going to take on so many different identities, forever. And we didn't come here to just be one thing. And that's such a kind of matrix way of thinking, that we're supposed to only be one thing and that's it. And that's just not realistic for so many people. I mean, it's almost holding ourselves back and putting ourselves in a box to say this is all I'm going to do forever. It's like, where's the curiosity and the fun in that and the experimentation? And, I remember having this conversation so many times with people as, we're either graduating college or we're, switching careers or whatever. And people often, I find, feel so just like helpless and so low in their self-worth because they don't know like who they're supposed to be. Because we place so much value on specific labels in life. And when we don't know exactly what we want to be, we get judged for that, or we are looked at as like, oh, we don't have direction, when really we're just like human beings trying to have this experience and get playful. And I always say this to my sister and my friends who are feeling like, I'm feeling self-conscious because I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be doing. And I'm like, all you're supposed to be doing is just enjoying your life and focusing on what makes you feel good. And that's going to lead you to what, professional position you're going to be in, or what kind of partners you're going to meet. And it's all coming back to self-worth and valuing ourselves regardless of the labels that are attached to us. And it's all part of the journey. Like, I spent so much time and so many years doing just music, and I place so much value on the label of being a singer songwriter. And then I was like, you know what? I'm really into writing. I'm going to start a blog and a podcast. And I really want to talk about this because it brings me so much joy. And as I was going through that transition, I kind of had this like ego death about, oh, when I introduce myself to somebody new, I'm not really saying I'm a singer-songwriter anymore. I'm saying I'm a writer, and a podcast host. And I was like, it was such a big thing for me to be like, okay, no matter what I'm introducing myself as, it doesn't reflect on my innate worth. It doesn't make me, any less amazing, depending on what I say I am. And I just feel like it's so important for us to all feel the freedom to experiment and to take on these different identities and not feel like we're not good enough if we don't match up with a certain identity or a certain label. Like, it's okay, just like letting go of those labels. And I think that's so much about, like, if we want to talk about shifting into a 5D, 5-dimensional reality, it has a lot to do with shedding labels and shedding all of this low self-worth and realizing that, like, we are perfect as we are. We are love, we are light beings, and we don't need to prove ourselves to anybody or even ourselves. It's just about, finding that inner peace at the end of the day and not attaching to a label.
Damn right. It's almost like if we're just vibration and we want to feel good because that's all we have control over is feeling, it comes down to feeling good. For example, if I put a bag over my head, right, and something shoved up my ass, it could be a carrot, a donkey, a footstool, or a cock, right? If it feels good, I'll say keep it in. I don't know what it is, right? But if it feels good and that's all that matters to me, keep it in. If I took the bag off my head and saw it was a carrot, it's not gay. But if I took my bag on my head and saw it was a guy, the label is that it's gay, but I don't find guys attractive. So how is that gay? So again, it's like a label is specific on one thing, but it's multi-dimensional. And then it's like, do you know what I'm trying to say? We have
Yeah,
labels and they have to
yeah,
suit the label. It's like if you get a recipe book and it says you need to have this, and this, and then somebody says, oh, let's have poppadoms with it. No, it doesn't say poppadoms. Who gives a fuck? The whole
right.
point of eating is because you enjoy the food. Does it matter whether we add a bit of chili flakes on top or some olive oil or add some cream with it? You're missing the point. It's the point is feeling. How does it
Yeah,
taste? Not is it part of the recipe? It's not the label of like, oh, well, if there's a cock up your arse, you're gay. Well, what if it's a carrot? Like, what if it's a donkey? Like, does it make a difference? No, it's the feeling. And we focus on the label and not the feeling. And I make a point about that because I always, not anymore, but I used to be like, so if I don't find guys attractive, but I'd happily have a cock up my ass because it feels good, does that mean I'm gay? Yes. What if I didn't know it was a guy and it was, say, a donkey? Does that mean I'm gay? No. So it's circumstantial and it's a load of nonsense. It's like what the label says you look for. It's like Tourette's, for example. I had Tourette's growing up because the Tourette's label is twitching and swearing. But if I don't swear and twitch anymore, do I have Tourette's? No. But I did have Tourette's, and if it's with you forever, technically I do. Okay, so if I had cancer growing up when I was 6 and I'm 50 and I haven't got cancer, do I have cancer now? No, but I did, so I still do. Again, things change. The surroundings of your house is the same, but you're not the same person. And we focus on things just being what we expect them to be, and there's no room for judgment. And
yeah,
that is what people need to do. We're multidimensional. I believe, right, that we're all gay and lesbian, aka if you look at animals right in the field, animals don't know what's a female, what's a male, what's your auntie, what's your gran, what's your mother. You're just animals, right? And when you feel the need to mate, you mate. My dog was a female and had a daughter. So their mother and daughter, they used to mate or hump, and they're both female, they used to hump. And I
okay,
analysed this. If we're not supposed to be gay because God says you can't be gay, why the fuck is my mother and daughter dog mounting? And it told me that it's just energy and you go with feeling.
yeah,
And what I mean by we're all gay and lesbian is that if we closed our eyes and we focused on the feeling, who cares if it was a guy or girl licking you out? Who cares if you're giving a guy or a girl anal? It's not. It doesn't matter. How was it suddenly gay if it's a guy when you didn't even know? It's the feeling, and it should be focused on feeling and not the label. And that's where everything fucks up because
yeah.
we, oh, I can't do that. That's gay. Well, how about when I told you it's a carrot? It wasn't a carrot. It was a guy and you liked it. So now, what's your answer now, mate? Like, does that make
Yeah.
sense? It's like,
Oh yeah.
I feel like I'm gay, but you didn't say you were gay because it was a carrot. So we label things and we match things. You know what I mean?
Yes, for sure. And I think like that whole discussion is a big transition for humanity right now, and especially in the States and the UK, everywhere. It's like people are becoming a lot more gender fluid, sexually fluid, like people are non-binary, they're not really using certain pronouns. It's very interesting, and it's all about dropping these labels. And it's whatever feels authentic to you. Like, I feel very feminine and I feel very specifically drawn to men, but I definitely think that there's a gray scale and we're all somewhere on the scale. And some of us are more on this end and some of us are more on that end. But um, it doesn't define me as a person, what my orientation is or how I'm labeled. I'm just a human being and I like what I like, getting back to the feeling. I think the same conversation happens around art and music a lot. And we question what art is. When we see a banana duct taped to the wall at Art Basel, we're all like, what the fuck is going on? That's not art. But it made you feel something, didn't it? And is that not art? Like, how are we labeling that? Who are we to say that's art or not? It's kind of up to the observer and the individual to label that for themselves. So it's like nothing really exists unless we decide it does and give it a name. And yeah.
Damn right. I want to end on this high. So plug any podcast, social medias you want to do.
Oh, thank you. So I have a podcast called The Lifted Podcast with Helen Denham, which you can find Spotify, iTunes, and I also release music frequently under Helen Denham. It's like R&B, pop music. And my Instagram is at Helen Denham _. Denham is spelled Denham. And helendenham.com. I update all the time. I put at least 1 or 2 blog posts up a week. I list all the podcasts there, all the music. Like, you can subscribe to my Sunday newsletter. And yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It was so fun to talk to you.
Okay, I'm just going to press stop right there and I'll say goodbye. You'll probably see me again.